Hello everyone, Seanie B here again, and we're going to talk about everything to do with episode 3. This video I'm going to try to focus more on the secrets and stuff that left us all questioning why and what's this all about, rather than going over a summary. So let's get started. The title of this episode is called The Economist, and I'll go over more about that later, and I'll tell you who I think it is. This episode is about Saeed. He's one of the Oceanic Six that we find out, the fourth one that gets off the island. The episode really is about him, and also we see a new character. Her name is Elsa, and Saeed's flash forward, and we'll talk more about her later. Most episodes starts off with an eye open. This episode was the first that started off with a closed eye, and it was Saeed, and he was praying. He looked over at Naomi, and obviously he has some connection with the body, because he went over there, closed her eyes, and was by her for a little while. And he noticed her bracelet, and turned it over, and there's an inscription on the other side, and it said N, meaning Naomi, I'll always be with you, RG. Some people think it's RC, but I think it's RG. So who could this RG guy be? Well, I think that whoever RG is the Economist, the guy or girl who is named after the episode. There's only two people I know, and maybe you guys can help me out here, but there's only two people I know that have a name that starts with R. There's Regina from the freighter. We've never met her yet. We've only heard her. I honestly don't think it's her. And then there's also Richard. I think it could be him. He, if you remember when Ben was young, he looks the same as he does now. He doesn't age. He's been on the island for a long time that we know of so far. He also recruited Juliet off the island. So I think he could be the one, the RG, the one who gave Naomi her bracelet, and later we'll see Elsa her bracelet, which looks pretty much the same as Naomi's. Also, another idea for RG could be Republican Guard, from what Saeed used to work for in Iraq. I don't think it is. That's just another RG that could stand for. So the point I'm just trying to make is that the bracelet is important, and whoever RG is obviously important too. Now here's a pretty cool thing that I forgot to mention last episode, but look at the helicopter. I'll show you the picture here. There's the numbers and letters on the helicopter is N842M. Now N is the 14th letter of the alphabet, and M is the 13th. If you take 14 plus 13, that equals 27, and subtract 27 from 842, and it's 815. I thought that was pretty cool, like Flight 815. Now, a question I've had the past two episodes is why Frank hasn't asked about Seth, his friend, the pilot, that flew the plane instead of him. You would think that he would want to find out if he's still alive on the island. And another weird thing, a little bit later in the episode, Dan asked for Frank's phone, and Frank says, okay, but if George answers it, just hang up. I thought that was kind of weird. If you remember last episode, in episode 2, Saeed's playing with the phone and says, oh, what can it hurt? And Miles says, oh, it can hurt. So maybe that has something to do with it. So this episode's about Saeed, and it's his flash forward, and we find out that he's one of the Oceanic Six that gets off the island. A guy comes up to him, and they talk about how it's premium prices to play on this golf course, and they talk about 5-iron and 7-iron. If you remember, Saeed uses the 5-iron. If you remember, that's the same club that Desmond uses for the lightning rod, and the same choice that Paolo uses when he's playing golf on the island. Saeed tells the guy that he's one of the Oceanic Six, and the guy seems to be pretty scared. Obviously, he knows who the Oceanic Six are. Somehow they're his enemies, and Saeed shoots him. And after he shoots him, the sprinklers come on, which I found pretty strange, especially if it was a premium golf course. I don't think sprinklers would come on in the middle of people playing, and maybe it just meant that it was a time that they weren't supposed to be playing there, or if it just seems like in a lot of movies where people die at golf courses, sprinklers somehow come on. We go to the Locks group for the first time in this episode, and he's trying to bring them to Jacob's cabin. and he gets to the spot where he thinks it is, where he saw it last time, and all there is a pile of ash on the ground. And he says, "Oh, I thought it was here." And Ben kind of laughs, knowing that it wasn't going to be there all along. If you remember back to season 3, when Ben takes Locke there for the first time, there is actually the ash all around the cabin. So I'm thinking that the cabin was actually in the spot that Locke was at some time. I don't think Jacob wants everyone seeing it, though. Whenever he wants someone, he summons them somehow. Black sand or ash, the type that what looked like Locke picked up, is actually in some cultures placed around certain objects or buildings or sites to prevent evil spirits from going in or coming out of whatever it is. That could be an idea trying to keep Jacob out or inside, contained, or it could be that maybe that circle is actually keeping Jacob in one spot around it, and after Locke was able to see him, Ben came back and moved it so Jacob was able to leave, and so Locke could never see him again. A new character is introduced in this episode, and her name is Elsa. And Saeed, in his flash forward, meets her at a German restaurant. He goes up to her almost as if he's supposed to, and she seems surprised, and she's reading a Sudoku book. And anyway, later they get intimate. And she has the same bracelet. I'll show you the picture right here. It looks almost the exact same bracelet as Naomi. We didn't see an inscription inside, so all I can assume is that they're either got it from the same person or are working for the same person. I'm almost positive that it says RG in her bracelet too, so I still think it could be Richard. Also, I'm not sure why. But look at this picture. Apparently, Saeed has boobs. A little awkward, not sure why. Man, woman, yeah. And one of the crucial parts of the whole Saeed flash forward is that Elsa mentions that her boss is an economist. Obviously, the Economist named after the episode, so he is definitely important. The next part I'm going to talk about is probably the single most important part of the episode. It started off with Dan, and he calls Regina and says to fire the payload, and he starts his stopwatch. And Regina's counting down until how long the payload gets there. She's counting down 40 kilometers, 35, 30, and gets to 0. And Dan's like, "Wait a minute, it's not here." She's like, "That's weird." And he says, "Oh, that's way beyond more than weird." Then later, a little bit later in the episode, the payload actually comes back, and he gets out the clock from the payload, and he sees that it's 31 minutes behind on the island than what it says on the payload. The payload said 3:16, and the stopwatch says 2:45. Now the island time is 31 minutes behind the time from the payload.